If you are ready and with your permission, proceeding to segment 2. All right.
Please proceed.
Get this. Please proceed. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Well,
Bailiff,
it
whack
turns
his
out,
PP.
yeah, we're gonna need the whack his PB commentary here in a second.
Bailiff, whack his PP.
It's so appropriate. That was a preemptive whack his PP, and I appreciate it because we can't go through an episode of Second Legacy without some sort of phallic reference. Cue Elizabeth Warren. So here's the thing. Davy did a thing. Davy Hogg did a thing. And just to remind you, as a public service announcement, beautiful people of Second Legacy, don't name your kids Davy because they turn out to be gun controllers. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So here's what they're doing. This is number 4. Families using recreated voices of gun violence victims are calling lawmakers. On a scale of 1 to 10 or a 0 to 10, Tim, give me a creep factor here.
That's like a 25.
Okay. All right.
That is the most insanely disgusting thing I could ever imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously. And that's not because I'm pro 2A and they're anti 2A.
No, it's just as a human.
Yeah, just as a human. Like if one of my children had passed and then some group decided to replicate their voice through AI and then go out there and make phone calls and try to use it for political purposes, I would be livid. So
even outside the political implications, we're just talking about the actual action of this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the weird part,
bad
dude,
taste. Even if they had the permission of the
it's horrible
families,
taste.
bad taste.
Well, but that's where it gets really odd for me. And this is something that I covered in my episode on this. Listen to this. This is number 5. Parkland, Florida. Joaquin Guac Oliver died in the 2018 Parkland, Florida high school massacre. But federal lawmakers who opposed tighter gun regulations began getting phone calls in his voice on Wednesday, lambasting them for their position. This is where it boggles my mind. This is number 6. The families of Oliver and 5 others killed with guns are using artificial intelligence to create messages in their loved ones' voices and robocalling them to senators and House members who support the NRA. So the families are doing this, dude.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
Here's my thought on this. And obviously you get the immediate ick factor. You get the immediate gross factor and like the beyond the pale. You go into a point here where the people in question here, for example, are Manuel and Patricia Oliver. These are his parents, right? They've been arrested for improperly protesting and climbing cranes. They've been kicked out of congressional hearings because gun controllers used them and invited them there. They are using this as a way to propagate gun control, but this is, in my opinion, where grief overrides the mission, right? Like you're
Right.
so desperate to deliver and find meaning for what you experienced that you're going beyond the pale. And in my experience, in the long term, this turns people off from your message. It's more about the spectacle than the message.
Sure. I mean, imagine getting the phone call. So first of all, I would imagine most of these representatives wouldn't recognize the voice of the deceased, right? You have no idea who that voice belonged to.
No, not at all.
So the phone call has to include, "Hi, I'm a dead person. I died in Parkland," right?
Oh, I've got it.
Oh, you have the actual call?
Oh, I've got the actual verbiage, but please continue. We're going to get to that.
Oh, no, I'm just speculating. So, I mean, it gets more tasteless as you try to understand what this call had to consist of. Because if you just get some random call from a voice, you would have no idea. So if they're trying to use AI to sway people by using the voices of those that are deceased, when you have no idea what that voice is or who that person is or who that voice might belong to, they got to say some pretty tacky stuff, I would think, in that robocall.
We're going to get to that here in a second because you're not far off. But let me walk you through a couple of things here, and then we're going to arrive at that point here. So this is number 8. Listen to this and tell me about the consistency or lack of consistency you hear on this. This is coming from Manuel and Patricia Oliver. These are the parents of one of the victims. Okay, these are the guys who got arrested and kicked out of Congress. That quote. We come from a place where gun violence is a problem, but you will never see a 19-year-old with an AR-15 getting into school and shooting people, Manuel Oliver said. Quote, there's a reason for the gun violence in a third world country. There's no reason for the gun violence and the amount of victims in the United States. I'm a little confused. Why is there a reason for gun violence in a third world country, but there's not a reason in the first world? Wouldn't that, Tim, be bad people doing bad things?
Mhm.
I mean,
I
I
mean, that
mean,
can be
like that.
classified as all sorts of things, including racist. But I can also show you a graphic that I just actually grabbed last night, I believe, that shows the rate of population and the percentage per capita of,
Mhm,
of gun owners. And then the next graphic shows those same countries and their violence, right,
right.
as it relates to guns being used in crime. And yeah, the United States is actually, given our population and gun ownership and all that,
Hmm, pretty
we
low.
have the highest population of gun owners in the world. But when you look at per capita, the number of people that are killed in violent crime, we're not we're not leading that.
No,
And many
we're
times
not.
it's those third world countries they're talking about here.
Well, but
But
okay,
is that okay?
to
No,
your
that's
point, it's not
horrible
okay.
violence. Right.
Right.
But
But
they're misrepresenting the facts, and then they're
yes,
saying, "But it's okay in a third world country." Why? Because they don't matter to
exactly.
you? That's racist.
Exactly. Dude, that's exactly what I was hoping that we would arrive on. So you're saying that gun violence is okay and expected in a third world country, but in a first world country, it's not. So here's a question. Why is it acceptable in a third world country, but it's not acceptable in a first world country? So you're saying that they are either bad for XYZ or there's income disparities or whatever reason you want to make up, lack of political centralized control, whatever you want to go with, but you're saying that it's fine in third world where we came from, but in first world it's not acceptable. That says a lot about your mentality. I mean, that
Yeah.
really does. And to your point,
Yeah.
they massage the numbers and make it a lot worse than it is. But you would be surprised, Tim, and by surprised I mean you wouldn't be, whose fingerprints are on this. This is number 9. After Joaquin's murder, the Olivers founded Change the Ref, which is sponsoring the website with March for Our Lives, a group created by Stoneman Douglas students. That's Davy Hogg's group.
Yep, that's
Both
Davy Hogg.
recruit young people through non traditional demonstrations like the AI calls and die ins. Now, to give you an example of who we're dealing with here, and this is the furthest extreme of gun control, in my opinion, on the protest side. Davy Hogg and the March for Our Lives are the same people who walked into a Publix and had a bunch of high schoolers just lay on the ground for 35 minutes with bullhorns. They're the same people who had coffins, well, frames of coffins delivered to the mall in Washington D.C. and spelled out words with coffins. And
Mhm.
now they are using AI to generate voices of the dead to call politicians. These people have no moral compass. They have lost their
No.
moral compass, and they are now. It's mission first. It's true believer. It's zealotry over anything, any moral crossing of a line you probably shouldn't do. It's gone. It's out the window. It's all about
Yep.
mission now, and that is concerning.
Yep. They're godless heathens, but that's what they do. But they I had to throw it in there.
Yeah,
But I
that
mean,
was
think about
like
it.
right out of we were no, not we were. Yeah, we were soldiers.
So,
Please protect our guys and send their little heathen souls to the hell.
yeah, right?
Please
It's the
continue.
other
Sorry.
guy's job to die for his country. It's my job to make sure he does.
Ex-
But
Exactly.
so it's disgusting because they're using really, as you said, tactics that are meant to elicit an emotional response. They can't win on the merits of their argument, so they have to resort to these really tasteless acts to get
Hmm.
that emotional response that they hope will
Correct.
then sway that other party to their side of the argument. Because, like I said, on the merits of the discussion, when you actually discuss the facts, you take the emotional nonsense out of the equation. People that have more than two brain cells to rub together will go, well, yeah, maybe not what you're saying over there. The facts seem to say something different. But the minute you get people that are of a lower IQ, they're easily swayed by such emotional displays of silliness. Well, then they're going to go, oh yeah, I mean, gosh, look at those that all those children laying on the ground playing dead for 30 minutes. Oh my gosh, that's just horrible. We got to do something about this. Ban the assault weapons. Put everybody in a rubber room. We got to do something. And that
Right.
only lasts for a short time as well. That's why they have to, whenever something bad happens, like what just happened in Kansas City, they got to strike quick because they know they just have a few days, and then the emotions
Before
die
facts
down and people
actually
start to look at the facts again. Right.
before facts actually come out and you look at what
Right.
happened. And like I said, we're going to cover this, but go back to the first segment that we just did. Why is this not higher on people's priority list? They're worried about things like inflation, pricing, the
Yeah.
economy, housing. Yeah, it's almost like they're using their advanced brains, not their emotional lizard brains, because you're trying to manipulate. They're losing effectiveness, which is why they are amping up to a next degree. That's really where I'm trying to get to. They are
Yeah.
increasing the pressure because they're losing effectiveness. So this is the words from the actual robocall. Are you fully ready?
Oh boy, I
Let's
think.
get it. So the first, this is number 11, doctor. It does say my name. They introduce their names in it. And here's the quotes. I died that day in Parkland. My body was destroyed by a weapon of war. I'm back today because my parents used AI to recreate my voice call to you. Other victims like me will be calling too, again and again to demand action. How many calls will it take for you to care? How many dead voices will you hear before you finally listen?
Yep, that's kind of what I expected, and
Mm-hmm.
truly tasteless.
100%. So, I mean,
So to be clear, that's not the words of the deceased. That's the
nope.
words of somebody with an agenda using the voice
Using
of a deceased.
AI.
Right.
Correct.
I mean,
It,
this is
this is
so
like some
off the
straight up
charts. Yeah.
Bob Marley kind of, you're gonna see three ghosts tonight before the night's over kind of shit, like Christmas Carol. It's so the word you said is best. Tasteless. It's tasteless. It's gross, and it's really creepy. I
Yeah.
don't like it. I don't like it, Tim.
Yep. Nope. I
Shows you
don't
who we're
like it.
fighting.
Yeah.
Shows you who we're fighting.
But there's they will stoop so low that they'll go subterranean. I mean, they will go as low as they have to get whatever their agenda is. And the problem that we
Yeah.
face is that many of us aren't godless creatures. We actually have a moral compass, and we tend not to fight fire with fire by going stooping to their level. So we take it on the chin by those that are influenced by these emotional displays of, propaganda, and we don't respond in kind. I'm not saying we should, but
No, no, I'm
just
with you.
keep in
I'm with you.
mind when one party is willing to go this low and the other one's like, yeah, that's kind of tasteless. We're just gonna pretend like this didn't happen. That doesn't help the situation either. Not at least on our side,
No.
right? I mean,
No,
I don't know
in
how we
my
combat
opinion,
this,
well, in
but
my
yeah.
opinion, you literally, with a full control on emotion, with zero targeting of any individuals, you just talk about what it's happening and go, "This makes me uncomfortable. This is not okay." I think, honestly, that's how you do it, um, because you don't ignore it. If you ignore it, you give them the narrative, you give them the entire
But that's generally
platform.
what the other
That's
side
generally
does
what
is
Republicans do. Yeah,
right.
Republicans absolutely bend down and don't want to talk about it. And so it's like, well, no, let's talk about it. I think that's the difference. The new gun advocates, the 2A advocates, they're willing to talk about it because we've been browbeaten for 20 years. And the new generation of shows, the new generation of conservative, or not conservative, the new generation of 2A advocates and talk shows are willing to discuss it because we have the ability to discuss it without crossing lines. They
Right.
don't. But I
Right.
think that's an incredibly important piece.